Welcome, everybody, to the Superhumanistic podcast, where we talk about all things health, wellness, and longevity. Thank you for joining us today. We are your hosts. I'm David.
I'm Jessica.
Make sure that you hit that follow and subscribe button on this podcast so you never miss another episode. We put out one episode a week on Saturdays. Also, check us out on YouTube and Instagram for additional content. Make sure that you share this podcast with someone that you love, who you want to live a longer, healthier, happier life as well. And don't forget to leave us a rating and review if you ever found value in this podcast. That helps other people find this podcast and continue on their health and wellness journey with some good tips as well. Last week, we talked about brain aging. So if you want to learn more about how visceral fat can really impact the age of your brain and ways to start reversing that before it's too late, go back and listen to last week's episode. This week, we are going to be talking about one of our favorite topics, which is sleep. We'll be breaking down some myths that have been out there, some new studies that have come out that are really intriguing when it comes to the moment that your brain actually falls asleep. So if you ask someone what it feels like to fall asleep, you'll usually hear one or of two things. Either it's this slow, peaceful drift, like you're just gently fading into another world, or it's the complete opposite. You hit the pillow and you're gone, you crash, you're out instantly, which is typically my wife. We can lay down, I'll start maybe doing a little breathing technique to kind of calm myself down and relax, and within about 30 seconds, my wife's already asleep. And for a long time, science actually leaned toward that first idea that sleep is something we gradually slide into. In my experience, it's not sleeping next to my wife, but for me, it's more of a gradual thing. Then the brain slowly powers down, your breathing softens, your heart rate drops, your body eases its way into rest. But what if that's not really what's happening?
Yeah, so here's the discovery. A new study is challenging that idea. Researchers analyzing brain activity found that we don't actually drift into sleep the way that we think that we do. Instead, we fall into it. There's a tipping point, which is a very specific moment where our brain crosses that threshold. And just like that, we're sleeping. It's not gradual, it's not gentle, but sudden, almost like stepping off a cliff.
All right.
Yes, that is how I fall asleep.
So I guess you're ahead of the game here. You're the person that they've been studying, and it's true. So what's happening in the brain? To understand this, scientists used EEGs, which are basically scanning for those electrical currents in your brain and looking at that brain activity. They took data from over 1,000 people, so it's a pretty solid sample size. Sometimes you see some of these studies and it's like 200 people, 100 people. You're like, well, how do you get an accurate reading from that? They really mapped out what they called a sleep trajectory. So imagine this. At first, when you close your eyes, your brain is still relatively active. You're resting, but you're still awake. And then slowly, activity starts to decline like a ball rolling down a hill.
So the tipping point here, here's where things get a little more interesting. The slow decline doesn't continue all the way into sleep. Instead, in the final minutes before we fall asleep, there's a sudden drop. It's a sharp shift and a point of no return. That's the tipping point. The exact moment that our brain lets go of the wakefulness and enters into sleep.
All right, next we'll jump into the details related to that moment when you do enter sleep and what that window really looks like. So researchers were even able to estimate how long that final transition takes on average. It's about 4.5 minutes. So that's the time between that tipping point and being fully asleep, which means most of the falling asleep process we think we are experiencing is actually just the lead up. The real transition happens super fast.
And so then why does this all matter? It kind of changes, not kind of, it does change the way and how we think about sleep entirely. Sleep is this threshold. The goal isn't to force sleep, it's to reach that edge. So to get close enough that our brain naturally just tips over into the sleep.
All right, so what does that mean for us in the real world? That really explains what a lot of people typically struggle with when it comes to sleep. You can lie in bed for an hour feeling like you're almost there, but never quite getting there because you haven't reached that tipping point yet.
Yeah, so then that spiritual connection that sleep has is that it's something deeper, right? Sleep requires us to totally surrender ourselves. We're not forcing it. Like, I can't just tell my brain, go to sleep. Like, it's not going to work. So, and we have no control over it. Some nights I do fall asleep instantly, as my husband is jealous of. But there are other times where it does take me longer to fall into sleep. So there's that release of control as well with sleep. And at some point, we do have to just let go.
All right, so maybe falling asleep isn't about trying harder. It's really just about removing that resistance and creating the conditions and allowing your brain to do what it's designed to do.
So some practical takeaways here. How do we actually reach that tipping point more consistently? First, we need to reduce that stimulation before bed. So I've been trying to keep my cell phone, especially on the weekends, in my bathroom. It's my alarm clock, unfortunately, in the morning throughout the week, so I do have it next to me, but I am not on it when I get into the bed. Light, screen, noise, all of it will keep our brain elevated, so make sure that we're reducing that as much as we're able to once we get into bed. Second, we're going to create a consistent routine. Our brain learns patterns, so the more predictable that our nights can be, the easier it is to reach that edge.
All right, third, don't chase sleep. If you're lying there frustrated, you're moving further away from that tipping point. Sometimes the best thing you can do is relax into wakefulness.
So closing this episode out, sleep isn't something that we force, it's something that we fall into.
And that moment, the tipping point, is where the control ends.
And trust begins.
So tonight, instead of trying to fall asleep,
just get close enough.
And let your brain do the rest.
That's what it means to be
more superhumanistic. We'll see you next time.